on Coastfm 963.
Back in the saddle again, out where a friend is a friend, where the longhorn cattle feed on the lowly Jimson Way. Back in the saddle again, riding the range once more, toting my old 44, where you sleep out every night and the only lure is right. Back in the saddle again, whoopee-tie-yi-yo, rocking to and fro. Back in the saddle again, whoopee-tie-yi-yay, I go my way. Back in the saddle again. Back in the saddle again, out where a friend is a friend, where the longhorn cattle feed on the lowly Jimson Way. Back in the saddle again, riding the range once more, toting my old 44, where you sleep out every night and the only lure is right. Back in the saddle again, whoopee-tie-yi-yo, rocking to and fro. Back in the saddle again, whoopee-tie-yi-yay, I go my way. Back in the saddle again.
That's the theme song from the Melody Ranch radio show from Gene Autry, originally recorded. In fact, it was written for a movie overnight. The fellow that co-wrote it with Gene Autry came home and said to his wife, I've got to write a song for a movie. And he said, I'm back in the saddle again. And she said, well, that's the name of the song. And that was Phil Mahoney, and Phil's on the line. G'day, Phil. How you going?
Good, thanks, Mike. Good to hear from you.
Yeah, good, mate. What's happening, Phil? It's 60 years in the musical business now. Congratulations.
Oh, thanks very much, Mike. Yeah, it's gone very quick. I can remember the very first night that I performed at the Newcastle Town Hall. My sister was a model with the Easton's fashion stores, and they used to always hold the fashion parades at the Town Hall, and she said, oh, can you sing at the next parade? And she said, I want you to sing You're As Pretty As a Picture,
right,
as the models come down onto the catwalk, and that was my first performance there, and I didn't think years would go that quick along as they go, but on the 8th of December, I had my birthday, but the day before, my daughter and son made a presentation to me. I didn't realise that it was 60 years in entertainment. Yeah, so it's been a fun, long time.
Not only singing, but you played drums as well, Phil.
Yeah. Well, I started off, my very first job that I had, Mike, was at Lambton, fellow Lambton, where I live here in the suburb of Newcastle, muso called Greg Kinsella. We went to school together at St John's at Lambton. I used to be like a roadie, helping carry the gear around, and one day he just said, can you join our band as a drummer, Phil? Because the drummer had left and gone to the Central Coast for the Commonwealth Bank, and he said, we haven't got a drummer. So I got offered my first job as a drummer and backup vocalist with a band called Magnus, and then a lot of other different bands after that, and then I got offered a job as a singer with another band, and then my longest running show that I had in 1981, a club manager, the late John Quinn at Shortland RSL, a club that is not going these days. A lot of clubs have closed down, but he asked me to put together a Sunday afternoon show, and he said, can you just put a country band together for me? And I said, well, instead of a band, what about we put together a show? And the Shortland RSL was known as the Happy Club, so I said, what about we call it the Happy Hoedown Show? And so it just took off right from the very start in 1981, and then we had run right through to 1991, and we had Rex Dallas there, and the Dallas Cowboys as a back-in, and also we had the pleasure of having you as well interview the artist at halftime. We'd have different guest artists each week, and you were a great supporter of our show, and we do always appreciate those people who helped us over the years, and so I'm still going today. My son produced a new show in 2013, especially to go to Tamworth. An old mate of mine is a former music teacher at St. Pius High School. He taught my two elder sons there, and he'd never been to Tamworth, and he's in his late 70s, and my son said, well, I'll put together a package show, a country show, and so we put together a package show with Wayne Rogers, Australia's #1 female impersonator, and Wayne does Dolly Parton, Patsy Cline and Tammy Wynette, and also comes out with me on the last song of my Johnny Cash tribute and does Jackson with me as June Carter Cash, and we had Jimmy Overend on the show, and a bloke from America who's been here about 10 years, Outback Ellis. He looks like Willie Nelson and sounds like Willie.
Yeah.
And so he put that together, that show, and we do that show occasionally now, and it's a pretty big show with 4 singers and 4-piece band. There's not a lot of clubs can take the show, but occasionally we get a booking for that show, and yes, I still keep my hand in, even though a lot of people my age are retired and give it up. I still enjoy. That's the only reason, I suppose, that I've been in it so long, because I enjoy it,
Yeah, Phil, you mentioned the Happy Hoedown show, which I got involved with you around about 1980, 81.
Yeah.
That went for a long time. And we had Rex Dallas and the Dallas Cowboys, and I used to do some fill-ins. And when you couldn't do the show, I did the show.
That's right. Yeah. You fill in for us as the host of the show, which was always great. And you knew all the artists, and they always loved to have an interview at halftime. And it was always like 500 people there. It was just from the very first show. We had packed out. I walked into the club for the first time, and I couldn't believe it. It was just an afternoon show from 3 o'clock to 6. Originally started 2:30 to 5:30, then we went 3 to 6. But I walked in the first day, and it was just packed out. It was a big auditorium, held 500, and it was packed, and it just, went on from there. And then I firstly heard Rex Dallas on another show, and we had a few other different bands, and Rex had just moved to the Lake Macquarie area, living out at Fassifern, and I heard him and his sons play, and I thought, they were just so good and brilliant young teenagers, Brett Dallas on the lead guitar, Colin Dallas on the drums. You had Frankie Jones playing bass at the time. We used to call him the Cunnamulla fella. Frankie Jones, he was a bass player. But yeah, and as I say, it was great. You filled in on that show a lot of times, so you experienced the success of that show.
Yeah, I was just thinking too, Briar Records, when he was out Fennel's Bay Way, Rex started that label off, didn't he, Briar Records?
Oh, yes, he did. He had his own little studio out at Fassifern, and his record label was Briar Records.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, he recorded a few people in that area as well, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, different artists, that he'd record, and always a great bloke, Rex, and, he'd always willing to help any other artist, and that needed a hand, and one of those good blokes, that you meet along the way.
Yeah, well, congratulations on your 60 years, Phil. What, do you think you might do another 60?
I'll try and keep going as long as I can. Thanks.
Righto, mate.
Well, Mike, thanks for all your wonderful support over the years. I really appreciate that.
Thanks, mate. And Santa looks a lot like Daddy. Phil, we'll go out with you singing that song.
Oh, thanks very much, and a Merry Christmas to you and all your wonderful family.
Thank you, mate. All the best, Phil.
Yeah, thanks, mate.
Thanks, mate.
Santa looked a lot like Daddy, or Daddy looked a lot like him. It's not the way I had him pictured. Santa was much too thin. He didn't come down the chimney, so Mama must have let him in. Santa looked a lot like Daddy, or Daddy looked a lot like him. They thought I was fast asleepin', they thought I was tucked in bed. They never thought that I'd come a-peepin', or that I'd hear what was said. Santa put his arm around Mama and Mama put her arm around him. Santa Claus ain't Daddy, and I'm gonna tell on them. Santa looked a lot like Daddy, Daddy looked a lot like him. It's not the way I had him pictured. Santa was a much too thin. He didn't come down the chimney, so Mama must have let him in. Santa looked a lot like Daddy, or Daddy looked a lot like him. I never saw a dancer or prancer, I never heard the sleigh bells ring. I never saw the red-nosed reindeer like they show on the TV screen. But he sure brought a lot of presents. Santa Claus he must have been. Well, he sure looked a lot like Daddy, Daddy looked a lot like him. Santa looked a lot like Daddy, well, Daddy looked a lot like him. It's not the way I had him pictured. Santa was a much too thin. He didn't come down the chimney, so Mama must have let him in. Santa looked a lot like Daddy, and Daddy looked a lot like him.
That's Phil Mahoney, and Santa looked a lot like Daddy. Phil celebrates 60 years in the entertainment business. Been a great support to me over the years. Thanks, Phil.